TJ Friedl leading off every day for the Reds in 2025 will go a long way in allowing Cincinnati to reach its postseason aspirations.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We've been podcasting about the Cincinnati Reds for a combined 14 years now, and we are happy that you're alongside us here today. Locked On Reds is, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's show, we are going to be discussing the fact that we are Dave Concepción, lucky number 13 days away from opening day. And we're going to be talking about Dave Concepción a little bit later on in today's show. We're also going to be looking at the problematic outfield that the Reds have had. And this is not just a 2025 issue. It's deeper rooted than that. We're going to tell you just how deep them roots go here in a few minutes, but we're going to start out first with the man that's going to be fielding in center every single day, or at least that's how it should be, TJ Friedl, because quite frankly, Steve, it was clear. I mean, it was clear for a number of different players last year. No Matt McLain, barely any CES. You had bad Will Benson, bad Noelvi Marte, but you also had hurt TJ Friedl. He barely played last year, and his absence was super noticeable.
It was definitely a difference maker. I mean, the problems with this lineup in 2024 begin with the loss of Matt McLain. But when you take out both Matt McLain and TJ Friedl, your 1-2 punch at the top of the lineup, the Reds were really kind of dead in the water before they ever truly got a chance to get started. Matt McLain looks healthy. Matt McLain has looked great out in Goodyear. Likewise, TJ Friedl has looked healthy. Now you get both of those guys back at the top of this lineup, and I don't know that they're going to go 1-2. I don't know if Elly's going to get dropped in there, but a 1-2-3 of TJ Friedl, Matt McLain, and Elly De La Cruz, now you're cooking. That is a great 1-2-3, and you slot anybody in there in the 4 slot with a little pop in their bat, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and all of a sudden you are scoring runs. And it all begins with TJ Friedl setting the pace. Here's the thing, Jeff. He's got to play every day, and he's got to remain healthy to play every day. And this is not a commentary on, well, I hope that he hits the left-handers enough to go ahead and be out there. He has to play every day. There's nobody else to play. He's the center fielder. It's him, right, and then maybe Stuart Fairchild every once in a while. It's got to be TJ Friedl. I need for him to be that guy he was in 23. Now, you and I recall, we can pull the receipts if we have to, but you and I went round and round in 2023 because you were all in on TJ Friedl. And I kept saying, we don't know who he is. And then we got last season, the injured TJ Friedl, the TJ Friedl that you really couldn't rely upon because he couldn't stay healthy and he couldn't get it done for long periods of time. So I still am stuck in the place of, I don't really know who he is, but I need for him to be, the Reds need for him to be, Reds country needs for him to be 2023 TJ Friedl. If he's that guy, it's going to get the Reds off to a great start. It's going to set a tone. It's going to allow the Reds to score lots of runs, and it's going to make this team be competitive.
Well, what was we were kind of throwing this around the other day, the fact that it was like Hunter Green and Elly De La Cruz, then there was a gap, then there's Tyler Stevenson, then there was another gap, and there's a bunch of guys like less than 2 WAR. Like if you add in a 3.8 TJ Friedl wins above replacement to what you got out of Elly and Hunter Green last year, now you're talking. And you're talking about a guy, I think I do know who he is. And I believe that the almost anti-platoon splits are real, but I think it's because he is a smart hitter. He understands his swing. He understands his own mechanics. He understands how he can help the ball club. If it's a bunt, if it's a slap single, if it's a let's change it up. And he did this last year when he was healthy, and I get it, few and far between, but he changed up his swing and became a pull power hitter. I thought that was kind of a crazy move for him, but he actually hit a few home runs given how few games he actually played. So I think that he is a guy that we can count on. And the fact that you're talking about the top 3 of the lineup, 2/3 of it is going to be the actual part of the 2/3 of the lineup that we expected last year, that is going to go so much further for this Reds ball club. But TJ Friedl literally does everything for you. And I find it intriguing. I've been, consuming different publications and different podcasts and different shows all throughout the off season, people talking about the Reds, whether it be, the John Boys of the world or the Foul Territories of the world or whatever it be. Those guys love TJ Friedl, and they all say the same thing. He's the most underrated center fielder in the game. The reason he's most underrated is because he is a Red. But quite frankly, even when he was coming up, we've talked about this before, he was underrated because he wasn't drafted. He was a undrafted free agent signing who made it all the way through the MLB draft. And the Reds were like, you know what? We'll give you X amount of dollars. You come on up. He works his way up, never in the top 20 prospects to the point that you're like, this can be a dude. And now it is clear that he is a dude. And the biggest question for me, Steve, is not what is his production when he's on the field. The biggest question for me is he going to be on the field? And right now, it looks like he is ready to be on that field every single day.
I mean, you look at his career, Jeff. 2022, he appeared in 72 games. He had an OPS plus of 104. He was 4% better than league average in 72 games. Slash line 240, 314, 436, only 8 home runs. Then he goes off in 2023. Now, mind you, he even got an MVP vote in 2023. I'm just going to park that there. We'll leave that there. But you mentioned 3.8 in WAR, slash line of 279, 352, 467, 18 home runs in 138 games. That's the difference, because when he falls back off in 2024, we're back down under 100, 85 games. His OPS plus dropped to 88. His wins above replacement dropped to just 0.5. Everything went down because he wasn't on the field enough. So he's got to play 120 or more games, 130 or more games. That's the guy that he's got to be. And then you get into his splits, right, Jeff? You talk about, what he did in that 2023 season. Let's just isolate that, because that's really who the Reds need him to be, right? They need him to be that guy. In 2023, he got 110 plate appearances versus left-handed pitching. That's 100. That's in 65 games, roughly. You ready for this? Versus left-handed pitching, 354, 421, 542. He was better against lefties than he was against righties. So
right. Yeah, that
if he can do the reverse split thing, that you're calling it anti-split.
Yeah, reverse split. I'm messing that up. Yeah.
I thought maybe you invented another. I thought you invented another stat. You're good at that here lately. I don't know. We'll figure out what an anti-split is. We'll circle back. But if he's that guy, it's a difference maker in this lineup, Jeff. If it's as much as we talked about needing guys like Jeimer Candelario to really step up and allow for flexibility and do a thing, TJ Friedl finds himself with the unique opportunity to really set the tone for this entire team. If they can put him out there 150 games in center field and just let him cook and bring Matt McLain behind him and Elly behind him and Hayes behind him and these guys that are going to perform, this team could be something special. We're looking at these guys, and you hit on it with that 3.8. If you've got, a bunch of 3, 4, and 5 WAR guys in this lineup, 1 through 7, 1 through 8, this team is going to score runs, and it's going to be problematic for everybody else in the National League.
And he's Captain Chaos, right? Like, we haven't got to use that name a whole lot because he was hurt a lot last year, but he's Captain Chaos. And to get that guy back, because I remember even a postseason interview, off-season interview. I can't talk today. I don't know what's going on. Off-season interview with TJ Friedl.
This is the wrong
kind of what we do, right?
For a person that can't talk.
But he was talking about the injury and everything that he had to go through in 2024, and he said it changed the way that he played. He didn't feel confident bunting. He didn't feel confident playing the way that he typically did, trying to take the extra base, trying to steal. And now he is healthy. Now he is ready to go. He's got all of that stuff back. And again, we don't love to talk about spring training statistics, but he's hitting over 300. He's got an OPS over 900 in the tiny sample size that is spring training. So while let's not get too ahead of ourselves and say this is supposed to be significant, it's at least a good sign. We're not talking about a dude that's got like 1 hit and 20 at bats in spring training. It really looks like all signs are pointing to TJ Friedl being that dude.
This is one thing I know, Jeff. We're only 13 days away from finding out, and I can't wait to see how these guys look in big league action on the big league field at Great American Ballpark. I can't wait to get there. But the outfield, TJ Friedl notwithstanding, is not set. And we talked about this yesterday. We're going to talk about it more because there are systemic problems in this outfield that go back not just to the last offseason, but go back multiple years. Coming up, we're going to break down where the Reds have been, where they're at, and hopefully where they're going with these outfielders. We've got that for you coming up next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If can't catch us live here on YouTube or watch us on YouTube, take us on the road with you. We're available on every single audio podcasting platform out there. Click subscribe, click that notification bell, click the like button, share the show with your friends. We love talking Reds baseball with you, and we want to talk Reds baseball with them as well. All right, Jeffrey, kind of set this up a little bit there at the end of the first segment. We've been talking about these outfielders now for a couple days, and the Reds needed a big bopper. They needed a power hitting corner outfielder. They didn't get that guy. They went out instead and got Austin Hayes, who we talked about yesterday, who you and I both believe is kind of due for a big season. And we think there's going to be a lot of positives there. But the overarching problem, the problem this team has had now, not one, not two, 3 off seasons, maybe more, when you look around the room, is there's no outfielders. There's no outfielders coming. There's nobody, when you look at this system, that you can say, well, if we just make it through this season, that guy's coming and he's going to be a masher. The Reds don't have that. There has been a deficiency in the drafting of outfielders. We have seen it in the number of shortstops that this team has continued to try to move to the outfield. It's a problem. And I wonder if maybe now with Francona around for multiple years, he might be able to get somebody's ear and be like, listen, you guys have done a bad job with this. For the love of God, go draft an outfielder that's an outfielder, and let's fix this problem. Something's got to give.
Yeah, Steve, this was actually pointed out to me by everydayer of the show, Adrian. Appreciate the message that we were kind of talking about this. But think about the guys that the Reds have had in the outfield. Think about the good performers that the Reds have had in the outfield. The only one that was drafted, the last player that the Reds drafted who had a season above 3, and we're not even talking about like crazy on fire MVP type season. We're talking about like viable starter numbers when it comes to WAR, was Jesse Winker. TJ Friedl is the other homegrown guy, as we mentioned, not drafted. He kind of fell into the Reds' lap a little bit after the draft, and they were able to sign him. Everyone else has been an outside hire in some way, shape, or form. And now I think there was a season back in 2016, I think that Billy Hamilton had a 3 WAR season. So there's one draft. But I mean, there's nobody currently in system. Jake Fraley traded for. Austin Hayes, free agent addition. We're hoping he can be really good, but we haven't seen it yet. You know, the last best outfielder that any of us can name is Nick Castellanos, obviously outside hire. Even if Stuart Fairchild went crazy, he was an outside hire. Like, there's nobody on this roster that is homegrown. And the Reds love to tell us that they're a draft and develop team. but it seems like they've neglected an entire part of the field, the grassy part out there next to the wall, next to the tickets that are a little bit cheaper than the infield tickets. That area out there, they're just hoping that they find somebody out on the open market because they haven't drafted anybody or signed an international free agent and developed that player to a major league caliber outfielder.
A lot of people will point to that group, though, Jeff, and say, well, Rhys Hines has a chance. He could be a guy. They'll say maybe Callahan's going to be an outfielder out there and do some things. They're going to say, well, what about Blake Dunn? They're going to say, well, what about?
There's a fourth and fifth outfielders at best.
Right. There is nobody that you can look at in this lineup and be like, they are going to be a guy. They're going to be someone that comes up here and plays the next 6 or 7 seasons in the outfield and delivers big league level quality play. There's a complete absence of that. Is the problem that they're drafting too much focus on drafting pitchers, too much focus on drafting shortstops? I get the logic, right? The logic behind drafting the shortstops is generally, generally, that's the most athletic guy on the team. That's the
you and me didn't play shortstop.
Neither one. We weren't even allowed to look over there, Jeff. You and I were not even allowed to look over there. But I get the rationale there. And then obviously this team can't afford to go out and buy pitching. It has to draft pitching. So its focus has been there. So I get it. But you can't just draft shortstops. At some point in time, you're going to have to go out there and get the best outfielder available, a guy that knows how to play the position, that also knows how to hit. You can't just continue to try and hope to convert infielders into outfielders. There's a reason that people play out there. They're good at it. It's a defensive skill set, and you need a bat to justify having them in the lineup. So I have a real problem with how the Reds have handled this. And
I'm sure
it's the easy way out, really, on drafting. Like, we're just going to draft shortstop.
Draft shortstops. We're going to sign these, Austin Hayes, these Tommy Phams, these Adam Duvall type deals where it's like we got an outfielder for a year or two and we're just the go-between to help a guy get back on his career track, the Nick Castellanos signing and stuff like that, where I think it's really strange. And like, I even just had this thought while you were talking about it. I'm like, well, they drafted Nick Senzel. Yeah, he was a third baseman when they drafted him. They moved him to the outfield. He wasn't even a shortstop, and they moved him to the outfield. But and he didn't pan out because they didn't develop him. There's a serious developmental problem.
I mean,
when it comes to the Reds system.
Think about this: Nick Senzel moved to the outfield. Spencer Steer moved to the outfield. Jose Barrero moved to the outfield. And this is just in the last several years. This has been a problem for 5 seasons now, and I don't see any end in sight to it.
And you know what? And I don't know that this happens right away, but can you imagine if he starts out slow at third base in Louisville? So Elvy Marte moved to right field.
Stranger things have happened. I mean,
I can see that. Remember, we were like throwing that around last spring training of they're talking about maybe moving him to the outfield. But that's the problem though, right? Like, they are really stretching. And if they're going to be a draft and develop team, they got to draft outfielders, or you go acquire a big time dude. And this is where a lot of folks, and I'm still on the fence about this. I hated the most recent rumors and I hated the most recent reporting about it. But if you don't have to give up that last package we heard about, Luis Robert, that's the kind of guy that you should be looking for. A guy with multiple years on a contract who then is with you for 3 seasons. That's who you're looking for. Maybe not exactly that, because it sounds like the White Sox just are crazy with their demands. But can you get a multiple year guy that's a little bit younger, that a team is trying to move him and maybe reset their team? I don't know. Something like that.
What is more likely? That the Reds go out and get a multi-year outfielder from someplace else, or that Elly De La Cruz becomes an outfielder and Edwin Arroyo is playing shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds?
I think it all depends on what their long-term view of third base is, because I think that there's a really good chance they could just move him there. So let's expand this, because I would like to even include Matt McLain in this question. Is it more likely that they go get a guy, or is it more likely that they convert a guy that they already have?
100% convert a guy that they already have. 100%.
I think so too. I think so too. Because especially with Matt McLain, like, I mean, is he always going to be a second baseman? That's a possibility, but is there also a possibility he becomes a center fielder because he's more valuable as a center fielder?
Somebody in the Reds organization told me that Matt McLain can be the best second baseman this team's had since Joe Morgan. Somebody in the building, I can't say who, but somebody in the building told me they think Matt McLain will be the best second baseman since Joe Morgan.
He's got all the tools, and make no mistake about it, I am not advocating. We are saying what we are thinking is most likely to happen. Not that we want them to convert somebody. This is what's most likely to happen, because for them to go make an impactful move, Nick Krall has to make a trade that he has been so reticent to even think about. A trade that requires top prospects. He has not done that yet. And he has not given up the kind of contract that would have been necessary to acquire a Teoscar Hernandez or an Anthony Santander. So one of those two things is going to have to give if he's going to get somebody from the outside. And I think it's more likely that Nick says, "Hey, Terry, let's get that arm of Elly's out there in right field. Let's see what we got here." But no, the outfield, and that's really, like, I wanted there to be some sort of feel good resolution moment when it came to the segment. There isn't one, and that's the point. Like, the Reds need to figure this out.
Well, because I know you're getting it, and I'm getting it. We're still got people asking, well, what's their next move? What are they going to do?
Outfield.
This is the team, though. There's nobody coming.
Right.
This is what they've got. So, you know, the Spencer Steer injury has me a little nervous, because if another outfielder has a problem, the Reds have a problem because of the depth. So because then you are counting on Will Benson or Reese Hines or Blake Dunn or Jacob Hurtubise for much more playing time than I think that the Reds can stomach if they're really serious about making the playoffs. That's going to be a really interesting talking point, because I'm sure at some point we're going to have to discuss that, and just kind of earmark that. That's going to happen. That's depressing. Summer. Get us out to a better segment.
let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about a legend. We'll do that coming up next. Are you hungry yet? I bet you will be after I talk about wonderful pistachios, because this is the best snack to have. It's got all the salty goodness. It's got the wonderful flavor. If you're talking about the chili roasted, they've also got some other great flavors too, if you're not into a little bit of spice like this. But it's going to fill that need when you're thinking about reaching for some sort of chips or some sort of pretzels. Wonderful Pistachios is there for you, and it's got all the protein that you're looking for. We're all looking for a healthier snack, and Wonderful Pistachios is that healthy snack. I've been reaching for it all throughout spring training, and it has not let me down yet. You got to check out Wonderful Pistachios. So get cracking, get snacking, and head on over to wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. They're everywhere. Go find them today. In fact, I'm getting a little bit low on mine. But I'm going to go have me a pistachio. And if you can't watch us on YouTube, you can listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. Make sure you check us out on them, because seriously, we're on all of them. All right, see, 13 days, lucky number 13 away from opening day. Less than 2 weeks, which obviously means we're about to talk about Dave Concepción, because, I mean, and I think it's interesting that not only have there been multiple players in the franchise's history to wear the lucky number 13 because of how superstitious baseball players are, but the fact that the number is retired and the Reds have a franchise legend who wore the number. I mean, I haven't done this research. I doubt that's the case for many franchises. I would venture to say it's less than a handful.
We'll have to hit the old baseball reference machine and look up
how many number 13s are retired.
Number 13s. But look, we're talking about a guy that played his entire career, 19 years, for the Cincinnati Reds, 9-time All-Star. He won, let's count them up just really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Gold Gloves. Finished 4th in MVP voting in 1981. Had MVP votes in a couple other seasons. And this is really a guy that offensively, he was all right. He was okay.
Right.
But what he did do was reinvent the position of shortstop for the AstroTurf era. The guy that invented the skip throw, the guy that showed everyone, Ozzie Smith, Barry Larkin, all those that would come after, how to play ball at Riverfront Stadium and Busch Stadium and Three Rivers Stadium and the Vet in Philadelphia and Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, all of these stadiums that were cookie cutter designed the same with the same AstroTurf. Dave Concepcion invented how to play shortstop on that field. You've seen the skip throws. You've seen him use the turf to his advantage. He reinvented how to play that position, and really was probably the last great defensive only minded shortstop before we transitioned into guys like Barry Larkin, who are out there, swinging the lumber and winning the MVP, right? Davey was defense, and Davey was, the field general on a team that really didn't need one, but him and Joe Morgan as a double play combination, you got to love it.
That should be a Cincy shirt. Davey does defense, or Davey knows defense, or something like that. Like that would have been a perfect Cincy shirt. No, he's a guy on a long list of guys that I wish I could have watched play. And just doing a quick scroll through of other teams and who they have retired, not even the Yankees, who have retired just about every number in existence, have a number 13 retired. I think it's literally just the Reds having that number 13, because I don't think a lot of players like to wear that number. But Dave Concepcion is a guy that I really wish I would have been able to see more. And he also played really before the era of highlights and being like all over YouTube. I can only imagine how many highlights there would be on YouTube had they had videos of Dave Concepcion readily available like we do now. But that's the kind of thing. And like the AstroTurf thing is something that I don't fully understand as much as, I love baseball and I love the history of baseball. Every time I read it, and you mentioned he was innovative because of the AstroTurf, it's such a different thing. It changed the game itself. Mm-hmm. And as most players recount it, and I love it whenever Barry Larkin gets storytelling time about AstroTurf, he hated it. And I think most guys hated it. I think most guys thought that it was silly and very gimmicky. And Dave Concepcion probably did too, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to own it, and I'm going to make this my thing. And he did it. I mean, he did it perfectly. He's not ever going to be that Hall of Famer that I think all Reds fans believe that he could have been, simply because of the hitting statistics kind of being, he's much more of a glove guy than a hitting guy. But he is always going to be, there's going to be a large number of Reds fans that will always claim that he's like their favorite player.
Yeah, I think he falls short of the Hall of Fame metric. And I get why people want him to be. There were so many Hall of Famers on that Big Red Machine group. But in 19 years, Davey amassed a WAR of 40.1. For me, I've always talked about my magic number 60. A player gets to 60 WAR, they're definitely worthy of a Hall of Fame conversation. So I think he comes up short. He had a couple really good years. I mean, in 1974, right before the back-to-back World Series, 1974, Davey had a 5.5 in WAR, Jeff. Slash line 281, 335, 397, hit 14 home runs that year, had a bit of a power surge for him. He had 1 year power-wise better than that. 1979, he hit 16 home runs, WAR of 4.9. So he had a couple good years, some good years in there. But, he was consistently good for a long time. That's not a knock. Everybody can't be a Hall of Fame player. But Davey was money. You could count on Davey to go out there. And, you look at his game totals almost to the very end. He dropped off, his age 38, 39, 40 season. But before that, he was playing 140, 150, 160 games a season for the most part. And, that's a model of consistency. Nobody did it better wearing the number 13 in Cincinnati or probably anywhere.
No, I think that I don't even know that it's a very deep take to be like, yeah, no, he is the best number 13 in MLB history. Because I don't think there's a lot. I would love to go back through a list of like who all wore number 13, because quite frankly, if anybody knows the names, and since the number is retired, it would be very interesting if anybody knew the other names involved for the number 13 of the Reds, because just having two other guys and I just had it, and I'm trying to pull it back up. Means that they're both before Dave Concepción. One of them is a very general name, and sure, you could guess this, but Eddie Miller back in 1936 through 1947, and then Eddie Pellegrini. Cool.
Love
Fun
it.
name to say. Fun name to say. But yeah, a little bit of, if you want to wow your friends, drop that on them. Like, all right, David Concepcion's number retired. What other two Reds? They're both named Eddie. Wore the number 13 in franchise history.
Well, I know this, Jeff. It's been fun doing these recaps, and we're now down to 13 days, less than 2 weeks, opening day at Great American Ballpark. We're going to continue to set the table, as it were, and get everybody ready for opening day. I'll be there. You'll be there. Some other friends will be there. We'll be talking about that in the coming days. But we are going to continue to gather up the news, the notes, the information, the rumors, and the reports from Goodyear as this team gets closer and closer and closer to opening day. We're going to bring all that information right back here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
Can't wait to talk about Bubba Thompson tomorrow. Bubba Thompson days away from opening day tomorrow.
Oh,
We could talk about his football career. What position are you going to play in football? Safety, I think. Or maybe it's I don't